There's plenty of interesting tech in the world of anime and video games. Devices that can do incredible things, impossibly devastating weapons. But the tech itself is rarely explained in universe. While no science is arguably better than bad science, the aura of mystery surrounding this tech leaves a whole lot of room for exploration. That's where this show comes in. Welcome to Gadgets and Gizmos, where I explore the tech from some of my favorite shows and games in the hopes of figuring out what makes them tick. My name is Kyle, and I'll be your guide through these choppy, pseudoscientific waters. This episode, I'd like to discuss Evokers from Persona 3. While they may not play a very important narrative role, these gun-shaped gadgets are crucial for your party members, as they are the method by which your team can summon their personas. But where do these bad boys come from? Why the hell are they shaped like guns, and what is it that makes them do the things they do? Guns. Aw yeah, man. Hell yeah, dude. Who doesn't like a good gun? A lot of people, probably. Still, that didn't stop the designers of this sleek and stylish tool. The standard issue Evoker is shaped like a handgun, specifically modeled after the Ruger Mark III semi-automatic pistol. These fancy Persona summoning sidearms were developed by the Kirijo group in order to aid Persona users young and old in harnessing their abilities. The question is, if they're simply used to activate someone's persona, then why make them guns? Well, shooting yourself in the head does work on a thematic level, with the major themes of Persona 3 being death and loss. It's also visually unique, immediately standing out from the more mundane summoning seen in Personas 1 and 2. Trivia aside, there is in fact an in-universe method to this madness. During Labrys' story in P4 Arena, one of the Kirijo group researchers mentions offhand that the fear impulse and self-preservation instinct seem to be the key to activating a persona. Going off of that theory, this could explain why the Evoker itself takes such a provocative form. Shooting yourself in the head with an incredibly realistic model handgun is likely to give you some form of the heebie-jeebies, and those feelings of stress and anxiety would only be amplified if you were, let's say, a high school student, or maybe even a child. All that being said, not every Evoker is shaped like a gun. When Koromaru joins the party, his Evoker takes the shape of a collar, more specifically, a shock collar. This probably wouldn't elicit the same sort of fear in Koromaru as the rest of the group, especially if he'd never had a shock collar before, but the idea still stands. As well, Aigis' Evoker is built into her body, though the Kirijo group likely didn't bother with aesthetics for hers because anti-shadow suppression weapons aren't exactly built to feel fear. There is also the case of Takaya Sakaki, the game's main antagonist. His team, Strega, operates during the Dark Hour as well, though they actively fight against Cease in order to protect the Dark Hour and, in turn, their persona abilities. The two other members of the group, Jin and Chidori, possess their own Evokers, likely from their time as test subjects for the Kirijo group. Takaya, however, doesn't have an Evoker. Throughout the game, he is shown summoning his persona without the assistance of an Evoker. Now, my theory is that Takaya has such a good grip on his own fear and anxiety that he can use those feelings to summon a persona without aid. All in all, this implies that Evokers are less a required part of the summoning process, and more like training wheels for more inexperienced Persona users. We now know that younger Persona users need a bit of help summoning Personas, and that fear works as a pretty good catalyst. This being the case, why don't the members of Cease just summon their Personas uncontrollably anytime they feel afraid or stressed? On top of that, why do the Evokers continue to be effective even after the members of Cease have realized that they're working with glorified water guns? As it happens, there's a lot more to the Evokers than just their looks. It all ties into the inner workings of this surprisingly complex machine, the core of an evoker, a plume of dusk. As far as Persona 3 lore is concerned, these odd crystalline chunks are the explanation for pretty much all of the unexplainable machinery in the game. They actually function as a consumable in P3, being given to the player on easy or beginner mode. They revive you with full HP and SP upon death, which is a nice safety net for new players, but gameplay aside, let's get into the in-universe implications. In-game, a plume of dusk is described as similar to a living thing, yet different, and are also said to exist in a state between mind and matter, mass and information. The description itself is fairly vague, mostly trying to convey that these things are unique, mysterious, and full of some sort of vital energy. In the Persona 3 club book, it is mentioned that a plume of dusk is actually a fragment of Nyx's body, which was shed when Nyx ultimately fused with the moon. Naturally, they're teeming with power, likely the same sort of power given off by personas and shadows. The Kirijo group realized what kind of raw power these things gave off, and started implementing them in a variety of different machines. All electronic devices are inoperable during the dark hour, but with a plume of dusk as a power source, machines like Mitsura's motorcycle, for instance, can run with ease. As I explained before, Evokers also contain one of these plumes, which makes sense when you think about it. Of course you want your evoker to run during the dark hour, that's when you'd need it most. But why does it need a power source to begin with? We still have no idea what the evoker actually does. So, this is where the real fun begins. I've presented all the facts, all the information that we know in canon about the evokers, but that still leaves a whole lot of wiggle room. Ending the video while we still have so many questions would be incredibly disappointing. So that's why we here at AVG Labs have dissected this data, and after careful experimentation and research, are willing to present a working theory for how all these parts come together to make the evoker work. Of course, and I cannot stress this enough, these ideas are just theories. There is no canon explanation of how the evokers work. At least, none that I know of. Boy, it'd sure be embarrassing if there was. Anyways, let's get theoretical. Let's consider the kind of energy that's given off by a single plume of dusk. If it can run a motorcycle during the dark hour, then chances are it's got some serious kick to it. We can't really quantify spiritual energy, we don't know what kind of metric the dark hour operates on. But for the sake of the argument, we'll say that these plumes of dusk are jam-packed with loads of persona power, or PP for short. At the same time, you've got your persona users who are trying to face off against shadows, but don't have the control over their emotions and abilities that people like Takaya have, so they're unable to summon their personas without help. These kids have a wealth of PP within them, but they can't access it without a little jumpstart. Freaking them out with a gun does loosen things up, and could help get the PP flowing. But it'd be more reliable to just give them a very quick jolt of persona power. Say that the researchers at the Kirijo group found a way to carry a minor charge of PP from the plume of dusk to the persona user. Then all it need is a direct connection to the person summoning their persona, and for someone to turn the machine on. In other words, someone would need to point the gun at, let's say, their head, and pull the trigger. Of course, that PP is going to have some serious kick to it, regardless of how much you use, which would explain the way persona users flinch and shake when they shoot themselves with the evokers, as well as the blue smoke that surrounds them, and the glass shards that spray out of the metaphorical exit wound of this spiritual bullet. It's certainly not the most scientific explanation, but in a nutshell, that's the theory. There's a whole lot of unexplained phenomena in the Persona universe, most of which is simply chalked up to magic or psychic abilities, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't have some fun trying to explain it. maybe now I can rest easy knowing that I've finally figured out the Evoker. It's not like the Kirijo group put out some other kind of complicated and unexplained machine. Nope, nothing at all. All done in that department. Yep. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this analysis/theory, and if you have any ideas or any theories to compete with mine, just let me know in the comments. Have yourself a good one.